Jonathan King 24. Now, I did mention earlier on that the chairman of Decca Records, Sir Edward Lewis, who was an elderly gentleman in his, I think, 70s at that time, who had founded Decca many years ago in the 20s, was the most wonderful guy and had gone to Trinity College, Cambridge, and as a result wanted to meet this new artist of his, Everyone's Gone to the Moon fame, who was another Trinity College undergraduate. We became extremely good friends. And one of the things I did when I came down from Cambridge and did the TV show was I went to him and said, Sir Edward, I've got to tell you, Decca's in a terrible state. Why don't you let me do a few things and help it along the way? And he said, yes, do, by all means. So he installed me, gave me an office up at Great Marlborough Street, and actually enabled me to take over completely. He said, basically, you run the company worldwide. I was 22 or something. And he said, the only thing is, don't hurt anyone. There's a lot of people who've been here for years and years and they're not any good anymore, but they were wonderful in the early days. Please look after them and do make sure that they never even feel they've been pushed to one side. Which I thought was a great philosophy and exactly the right way to run a company. So I did exactly that. I took over and I had a great time. And one of the first things I did was I realised that there were some brilliant records like You've Lost That Loving Feeling by the Righteous Brothers and River Deep Mountain High by Ike and Tina Turner that was regularly selling 5 or 10,000 copies a month. So what I did was I came up with a trick. I deleted them. And I deleted them for about 3 or 4 months, and then I re-released them under the name Command Performance. Now, I think it was Demand Performance. And they all went on to be huge hits, which was terrific. And I was sitting in my office feeling rather proud of myself when the head of the American licensing division came in and said, Jonathan, brilliant job, well done. We're selling loads and loads of these records, mostly Phil Spector records, and Phil Spector was my idol. But I have to tell you, they're out of contract. I said, what? He said, we don't have the rights anymore. You better go and see Phil Spector and get him to give us an extension. So I thought, oh my God. So I jumped on a plane, shot over to Los Angeles. Phil Spector had been very nice on the phone and said, yes, come along. Come and meet me at the studios where he was recording. So I went rather intimidated. I went along to the A&M studios in La Brea, and he was just finishing mixing a track called Love Is All I Have to Give by Checkmates Limited. If you've never heard it and it wasn't a hit, it's one of the greatest records ever made. I think it's one of my 5 favourite Phil Spector productions. Anyway, he played it to me, massive volume. I thought it was just brilliant. And he was so nice. And afterwards he said, right, now I'm going to take you out for the evening. He said, oh, don't worry about that stupid thing out here. So I'll sign all the documents, signed them, gave us an extension for an extra couple of years. And I'm only too delighted you've done such a great job. We jumped into this limousine and we went down to a Lakers basketball game. And I didn't understand basketball at all. So he sat next to me. In one hand he put an orange juice. In the other hand he put some popcorn. In one ear he put the commentary from the radio announcers. In the other ear he was shouting what the rules were because I didn't understand it. Talk about overload of information. And then afterwards, when the Lakers won, we went backstage where we met Wilt Chamberlain, who Americans will know is a legendary basketball player. He shook my hand, took my hand like this, and his hand went right up to my elbow. He has the most enormous hands. Then the 3 of us went out to dinner together. Phil Spector, Wilt Chamberlain, Jonathan King. Had the most wonderful evening, fantastic dinner. Phil dropped me back afterwards. It's the only time I've actually met him and spent some time with him. He couldn't have been nicer. Now, we've all heard the rumours about this, that and the other, him shooting guns through the console of the thing and all these murder raps and everything else. All I can say is I'm delighted to say, for me, the greatest producer of all time, Phil Spector, was also a really, really nice person when I got to meet him on that one occasion. So that's a memory I will always cherish. Meanwhile, I was running Decca. I was also doing things on the side. I wrote the music for a show at which John Alderton and Pauline Collins starred. They'd never met each other. They met each other, starred in this show, and fell in love and married and have been married ever since. And they always say that the song I wrote for the show, The Night I Chased the Women with an Eel, was the thing that actually brings back all their memories whenever they hear it. I re-released Everyone's Gone to the Moon and got a lot of publicity because, of course, there was moon landings and things going on at the time. I even managed to get it on the spaceship that landed on the moon, and they were going to play it when they landed on the moon, and instead all I got was all that rubbish about one giant step for mankind, and I'm shouting, playing my bloody record, think of all the performing rights I'd get from it. But anyway, they never did. But eventually I said to Sir Edward, look, I'm sorry, I've got to stop running Decca, because he wasn't paying me. It was all done for friendship. I said, I've got to stop. I've got to make some money. And he said, it's very odd that you're giving up this job, to make money. I said, well, yeah, but you're not paying me anything, and I don't want to do it as a full-time job. I'm only doing it as a favour. I kept looking after him in many ways and popped in and did various bits and pieces, but I went and recorded a song, and the song was called Let It All Hang Out, and I'm glad to say it was a huge hit. And the funny thing is now, 36 years later, it's the big TV commercial sound for Foster's Twist Lager. Let It All Hang Out, all over the television in Christmas 2006. But I had a big hit with it at Christmas 1969 and New Year 1970.